we understand that going international poses many threats. And political stability is a big major factor when considering going international. However, we should not continue from proposing strategic moves overseas only on political stability. There's many other factors that can affect a business, and you may benefit from purchasing a company overseas. This is what we believe at Index Consulting. My name is Jordy.
I'm Hamid.
I'm Bernardo.
And let's get into the how and whys you should purchase GE Water.
Now, having conducted a thorough analysis of the situation faced by your business, we've established that the main task at hand today is to make the necessary decisions to ensure a successful future for your company, given the imminent time constraints and the fact that the decision must be reached by 6 p.m. today. The solution we are bringing forward for you today focuses on striking a deal to purchase General Electric's Water and Treatment Process Division, and formulating a plan to ensure the successful incorporation of this business into yours, with the main goal and vision of establishing Suez as the world leader in the water treatment services industry.
Looking at a few assumptions that we made in our research is one, that there's going to be ongoing research with Suez, with the research and development throughout your technology, your software, hardware, and employees themselves. Also, we've established the finance throughout the banking industry, the $1 billion is secured, and a little bit more could be made as well throughout the loan offering. Also, the negotiation of the deal is going to go through until it's complete. We assume this because of the relationship that you have with GE already, and that the fact that the relationship is really ongoing, and that the CEO called you personally on the cellular device, and that he wants this deal to go through because he wants this from his end as well.
Now, through our research, we've identified some of the primary internal and external factors facing your business. So, first, politically, a new Trump administration in the United States has promoted an American first foreign policy. This has shifted the way that things are done and has primarily focused on putting American workers first and incentivizing the American economy. Additionally, American foreign policy has focused on withdrawing the United States from Trans-Pacific Partnership as well as the Paris Climate Accord. What this has done and how this impacts you is create certain uncertainty in terms of how things will be done, particularly when moving into doing business into the United States. From an economic perspective, there is a sort of lackluster macroeconomic environment within Europe, and particularly within France, a stagnant economy that hasn't been able to achieve significant growth over the last few years. Also, we are looking at a strengthening dollar and a weakening euro, showcasing the urgency to perhaps make a deal when it comes to investing into the United States. And finally, the financial support that you will receive from the Caisse du Dépôt et Placement du Québec for the potential purchase of GM is also a vital part of how the economics and finance of this plan will move forward. What this will do is will ensure a more diversified global position, ultimately strengthening your brand as a global player. From a social perspective, it raises the question of would the French get along with the Americans? Now, given some cultural differences, and despite cultural differences, we believe that there is a very amicable historical relationship, and primarily when it comes to mutually beneficial business decisions, there is no reason why this should get in the way of any moving forward. Also, as you move internationally, it is very important to consider your staff, your people, the human resources, how they will be impacted, and not just how they will be used to their maximum potential, but how they'll be happy with what they do. And finally it is important to keep in mind the growing urbanization worldwide. More than half the world's population now live in cities, and this presents an incredible opportunity for you and your business to develop and continue to grow, but it's important to establish that in cities. Next up, from a technological and environmental perspective, innovation and investment in technology within your company has taken you where you are today. And this has specifically focused on the environmental components, with a focus on water and waste management. And as we move into a world with fewer and fewer resources, it is important that these technologies continue to be developed and implemented to turn waste into resources, how this impacts your business as you become a leader in sustainable resource management. From an international perspective, let's talk a little bit about the General Electric Water Division. Now, this is a $2 billion company with over 7,500 employees, around 45 manufacturing sites, and hundreds of distillation plants worldwide. This is a significant division and would move into strengthening your presence as a global player in this industry. And finally, from a legal perspective, it is important to look at the terms of the deal. What will this look like? Will it go through or not? And then there will be legal requirements that must be kept in mind in order to be able to secure the deal and ensure a successful position for us.
You guys going internationally, want to make sure that the profit's going to be there. Looking at the quick analysis that we have on financials, that your industry for the international is growing. That's a market that you need to step into instantly. And unfortunately, the European network isn't there right now. It's kind of failing, so that's why we're going to step back on that right away as we're looking out for the future outlook, hopefully.
All right, so once the analysis we conducted, and just to go back a little bit introduction, what have we been tasked with today? What are the decisions that we must make today in order to make this deal go through? Now, as mentioned before, you're getting a call right now, and you must make a decision before 6 p.m. today. So first, deal or no deal? Are we going to take this deal or not? As mentioned before, we are going for the deal. However, this is the task that first we need to keep in mind. Second, what are the risks associated with this? Both politically, economically, and socially. And how can we ensure a smooth transition between these two companies? It's very important to keep in mind when dealing with human resources that people take a little time to adapt to new leadership. So leadership will be key in this plan. Well, let's keep that in mind going forward. Just to remember. All right. So once that being said, what are the options do we have on the table right now? First, purchase part of GE1. So they've called you and they want to plan to completely sell the water. However, we can counter by saying we're going to part of the company. We're going to part of the subsidiary. Something that we could take control with, over 51%, obviously. However, something that can lessen the burden of the financial investment in the short term. We made the decision based on, we're going with the decision based on the criteria of feasibility, financial of the company, as well as the long-term gains that you can achieve with this. So first part by GE. However, as stated by GE Water, they're currently looking to get rid of the division because it's not part of the strategic plan. So if we propose this deal to them, they're likely going to say no because they want to sell the entire division. So we're going to consider retracting for the deal. You don't have to take the deal, you don't have to buy the company. However, keep in mind the opportunities come so often. You have about 4 competitors that could also step in and buy this company, and we see that as a major threat going into the future. So keep that in mind. If not taking the deal is the path that you choose to do, you're losing a major opportunity, as well as the project is mainly feasible by purchasing. You currently have a loan that you can secure, as well as you have some free cash flow that you can use towards that deal. So essentially, what are we suggesting today? Purchase GE Water. And how we're going to do it is by measuring economic impacts, political impacts, and social impacts. So as an implementation plan, we're going to touch on it a little bit. You're going to see how we're going to measure this and how we make sure that when purchasing them, this, the political, economical, and social aspects of both companies can remain the same towards the same vision.
Well, that's another risk that we came up with our plan here is the White House and, in fact, President Trump. Now, one tweet could stock and punish your stocks instantly. We have a little change with this, that it's going to become an American growth company, and that the money is being put back into America, billions of dollars back into the American economy. Next is going to be not reaching an agreement between GE, which is an increase in money commitment, and that's something that we have that's going to push towards that as well. Also, the transition between is not going to be smooth. That's between both the employees of GE and yourselves, and that whether or not between the two of the masculinity that is high in the American market and also the individualism. France employees don't have that, but it's something that we can make smoothly transition, which is a medium likelihood. Also, our currency fluctuation for the currency rate. We want that currency rate to be fair and equal out straight throughout the exchange process, and that's a low likelihood. We're going to ensure some bank swapping, which kind of adjusts and automatically suggests that that currency rate is going to be stuck there throughout the year of the term for the loan. And those are the risks that we came up with for our plan today.
All right, so once we identify the risk, we identify how to implement this plan. So to keep in mind, we implemented the plan based on the risks we have at hand. So first, how are we going to ensure this smooth transition between France and the United States? So first thing we need to do is to take that phone call and start negotiations. Now, the company currently, GE Water currently makes about $2 billion in revenue. And by simply adjusting valuation of twice the revenues, right? We believe that they can be worth anywhere between $2 and $4 billion. Now, when negotiating $2 billion, we think that's highly likely going to say no to the deal. So we're also not willing to pay $4 billion to the company right away because it's a too high valuation at the moment and could cause a big burden on your company going forward, especially because there's only so much free cash flow at the moment. So we do believe we can reach an agreement between $3 and $3.5 billion. Now, there are room for negotiations here. Keep in mind that negotiations do go back and forth, and we must reach an agreement between 6 p.m. So we only have so much time to act on this opportunity. Therefore, this fair evaluation of 3 to 3.5 billion will be key. Once we reach the evaluation of 3.5, let's assume here the worst case scenario, which is $3.5 billion as we're proposing. We need to propose now terms of payment. Currently, we cannot pay $3.5 billion right away. It would cause too much of a burden on your cash flow, as well as your loan payments. So what we're suggesting today is that we make a deal with them to pay this $3.5 million over the course of the next 5 years. Now, you'll be putting down the $1 billion that you can take from the bank as a loan, as a down payment. This loan can be paid over the next 30 years, and we're going to touch on the terms of the loan in a second. However, that loan will be served as a down payment. For the remaining $2.5 billion, you'll be payable towards the next 5 years with a $500 million over year over year. Now, why 500,000? Because we currently have about $1.1 billion of free cash flow, and we don't want to tie your entire cash flow into this one project. As a company, you should always strive to diversify your investments and diversify other investments as well going forward to the future. And by acquiring this company, it will be a lot of more opportunities that you can acquire within the US and other partners. So this investment of $500 million will allow for you to still have some free cash flow in the next 5 years and still be able to invest in this company. Now, we're proposing this, and obviously they can come back and say no. This is not a deal we're willing to take. So we're willing to increase the price that the company is valued for to take this 5 years. This 5 years we see is key to ensure this deal to go through, this purchase deal, because it will take less of a burden on your company right away.
Now, the next step of the plan is to secure and ensure the terms of the loan with the case to depot placement to Quebec. And this would be done under the assumption that we have a problem to secure it. As you know, we've already been in conversations with them, and that $1 billion portion of the loan is secured. Ultimately, the low interest rate of 3% we believe is vital in ensuring that the plan can be executed within 5 years. Now, if this was to change, it would simply be a matter of adjusting some of the projections within the 5-year plan, but it is absolutely achievable. We also believe that it is achievable to reach a 3% interest rate as you are a company that is doing well, that is profiting, and that doesn't pose much of a risk for a potential lender. Also, this loan would be payable over the course of the next 30 years, as we will move forward a little bit into how this will be done financially and how this fits into the financial plan of the implementation that we are bringing forward for you today. Also, as Tammy mentioned earlier, we would be looking to secure a bank swap. What this means is that we would be looking to secure the currency rate at the current rate of 1.06 euros to US dollars to make sure that the potential currency fluctuations and the downward trend of the euro does not affect your finances moving forward.
Now, the final step of this implementation is that the people. Who doesn't care about the people in the company? And then make sure that they both care about the people at the end of the day, right? So instantly we're going to hire a VP of American operations, and this person is going to come up with or we implemented the synergy of the two companies and make sure that the two cultures mix properly and flow right, and that's there for constant development with the individuals. It's not an HR rep, it's not an HR manager, it's a VP of operations of American operations. It's an internal affair that's going to be there for both companies for the transition together. Also, it's an anthrocentric approach for this hiree, which means that's going to be local domestic hiree within the American market or within the company itself of GE. Next is that the GE knows and always has a diverse background with their employees. Now, this is something we want to carry forward with your company as well and make sure that it's there ongoing with the individuals. Everybody is going to be synced together and working well, just like a well-oiled machine. At the end of the day, everyone wants to care for the people. You want to show that you care for the people, so put this plan towards what is there for the individuals themselves.
Now let's take a look at how this implementation plan we're recording today looks over that 5-year period of time and what some of these specific milestones and key performance indicators are to ensure its success as we move throughout the years. So in the first year, as I mentioned, we're looking to ensure that secure the loan with the CDPQ, ensure that the deal obviously with GE goes through and that you are able to secure the purchase of its water division. We'll be looking to make a down payment of $1 billion towards the purchase of GE. and have, as Sammy mentioned, the hiring of VP operations here so that we can begin shaping together how the synergy of the two brands mixing together will look like. Here, a key milestone is to ensure that the deal and all these steps in it are complete. It is impossible to move forward without this being done. Jumping ahead towards the third year, we are looking at continuing the growth of the GE Water segment at around 2% yearly. This is important as we believe that for a future financial outlook, it is vital to ensure that the financial security moving forward, but also we believe it is achievable, as we mentioned earlier, because of the opportunities worldwide in terms of the industry and segment that you are in. Here we are looking to have aligned visions between the two companies. And the key performance indicator, as Sammy mentioned, is overall employee satisfaction. How is the company looking? How does this feel internally? And we believe that it will look great. And jumping ahead to the third and final year, we're looking to have fully paid General Electric for the purchase of the water division. And now we are looking at having everything in place, moving forward towards the expansion of the company, and now as you've been established as a bigger global player with added capabilities, how this will ultimately take your company to the next level and really be able to turn you into that leader that we believe that this plan will allow you to do. Here the key performance indicator is that everything falls into place according to the plan, and keeping in mind some of the considerations that we presented to you today to ensure that we are sitting at a point where we have enough capital to take on this expansion. Now, here it is important to mention that if something did turn, a risk turned up financially as the interest rate we mentioned before, this is a point at which the plan could simply be extended and the expansion could be postponed just to ensure that the company is financially stable. But ultimately, the goal is to fuel that growth.
Now let's get into the numbers. So enter your walls because you are such a great idea that you want to invest into this. Instantly, it's going to be the $3.5 billion that you're buying GE Waters for, and I think you understood that already. Also, it's going to be a loan payment principal of $175 million throughout the 5 years. Next is going to be the loan payments of interest, which is $3 million a year, calculated down over the 30-year term. That's going to be for the 5 years, $15 million for the first 5. And also your VP of American Operations plus salary and benefits. So we have $5 million for the full 5 year. The total investment there is that the overall perspective of the company for itself right now. And also we'll get into ROI as well.
All right, once we've identified buying price, terms of payment, and all of the factors that can affect this deal, what are we actually getting back? Why does this matter to you? Essentially, why do we need to get into this market? Well, first of all, intangible benefits are great. So you get into the US market, and the US has many other deals with other countries by assuming trading blocks that you can get to afterwards. So as Bernie mentioned, after the 5-year term, we're going to have some free cash flow. After paying GE Water, we'll have some free cash flow, and we'll be able to invest that cash flow into other markets. We can now go to South America, or emerging markets essentially, that have the need for water, and we can start implementing the technologies that you just acquired by purchasing GE Waters into emerging markets and really achieve the vision that you have for your company. Now, in terms of money-wise, the GE Water, in the current terms, they expect to make $1.5 billion in profit over the next 5 years. That's assuming the same margins of overall GE of 11.4%. And that's assuming the overall 4% growth rate that they currently have. Now, obviously, this is expected to grow as you have control over the company because you implement more diversified lines of business. However, as it currently stands, they expect to make $1.5 billion. And as I mentioned before, you can easily recover your money afterwards. So to summarize and to give you a better look on what we talked about today, we'll be tasked with the decision to purchase or not GE Waters. We decided to purchase GE Waters given the amount of money that you currently have, given the free cash flow, as well as given the opportunity that you have. Expanding in the US is a big step. However, it can lead into other emerging markets as we go forward. And as we touched on as well, the risks associated with this are there. However, you should never limit a company of making strategic moves if they are aligned with the all company vision. And with this plan, we want to ensure that GE Waters establish the main water supplier for industrial water globally. We thank you for your time. If there's any questions, please ask.
So you've made a number of really optimistic financial projections on things like interest rate, cost of acquisition, insurance rate you're looking for, one of the bank swap is not possible. Do we go forward with the deal, or do we delay the deal?
Because the actual acquisitions were a little bit inflated, that the deal is getting done no matter what, the interest rate is at 3 to 5%, and that most banks with a large acquisition like this, we're gonna go with the lower end of the interest rate, that's how banks work. And within the internal affairs of the $3.5 billion, that's gonna be set at a higher contingency. We believe that that will be an offer instantly made from the CEO of GE, and that's understanding that whether he will likely go with that number, and that's gonna be the push for, and we believe that's gonna happen.
I understand that, but if that doesn't happen, so it's optimistic, if it doesn't happen, and you don't get what you want, you go forward with the deal, it's over $4 billion at a higher interest rate, no bank swap, would you do that deal?
Yes, absolutely, because as mentioned, the intangible benefits of going to the US will allow for further investment into emerging markets. By acquiring this company, you're also acquiring the knowledge, the assets. These assets will be able to be implemented overseas as well. So not only the money here, if it's $1 billion, for example, let's say everything does not go through and we have to pay 4.5. We still think it's worth going through with the deal because of these intangible benefits and because of the future outlook of the company together.
Regarding the risk regarding the White House, you referenced the mitigation strategy being the American First program. How does that differ from currently what GE already doing?
Well, absolutely. So basically, what we believe the risk is that the purchase of an American company might create a negative reaction. The White House is currently quite unpredictable. We don't know which direction it can go. But by focusing on the American First program, what we're doing and what we're saying is that we're selling this program as a major investment into the United States, as something that benefits Americans, and benefits, and as we create the previously mentioned synergy between the companies, creates growth and jobs for the States. One of the primary aspects of the American First plan is to create jobs for Americans, and we believe this plan will do just that.
You guys showed a 4% growth rate for GE Water and ROI, and a 2% growth rate for GE Water and implementation.
Sorry?
In the implementation timeline slide, where it showed that KPI being employee satisfaction, it says year 3 continue 2% growth at GE Water, and in your why does it matter ROI slide, it says the growth rate at 4% for GE Water.
It would be 4%.
4%. I have a quick second question. If you are expecting the bank to provide you this low interest rate, 3%, you said that that's key, which I would take to mean that without that, it puts the deal at risk, despite your earlier response. But you're also saying that it's necessary to lock in the current exchange rate, which puts all the risk on the bank. And the way that banks function, as you said, is that if they're taking more risk, then they have to incur a higher flat rate, which would be a higher interest rate. How do you reconcile those two things? Being both, they can't really coexist.
They actually could coexist because banks have partnerships overseas as well. So the currency swap will just lock that currency right away. And with the interest rate, the 3 to 5%. Now 3% is key. However, we have room to negotiate up to 5% as we predicted with the contingency. So 3% with this bank swap. And again, banks always offer swaps to lock in currency rates given the size of this deal. And given the current relationship that we have with them, we do believe that they go through the deal with the 3% as well as a bank swap.
The 500, the structure you did at 500, you're saying basically keep that on you, or don't that with the,
So it could
or
be.
did you say structure the deal so that you keep 500 million with you? Was
From
that
the cash flow, so you had initial cash flow of $1 million initial from the past year. We're gonna keep $500 million
on the balance sheet?
on the balance sheet in order to keep some fluctuations there for yourselves in the years after, and also the kind of contingency fund, and you
What
also
would you do
want.
with that 500 million? Oh, you're done. Sorry, that's
I'll still touch on that. So the remaining 500 million will allow for your company to still operate in case of other contingencies. So the $1.1 billion they currently have in cash flows for the entire company. We cannot tie in the entire cash flow of the company in one project, and we must be able to diversify in case any other projects, any other opportunities come along.